Hello everyone and welcome to my Justice League review. This was a movie that I've been looking very much forward to. I kind of loved the Superman and Batman movies in the DCEU up until now. I really like Man of Steel and I love this movie, Batman v Superman. I've got the Steelbook. Not the cinema version. I think it was fine. There were some moments in there that I've always wanted to see on the big screen. It was especially clear that it was from The Dark Knight Returns. Some changes that I found weird, but overall I liked it, and the ultimate version was just... yeah, I really liked that movie. So for me the Zack Snyder movies worked. But Suicide Squad I really didn't like, and the last movie from the DCEU that came out before Justice League, Wonder Woman, yeah, you could see my review. I was in the minority there and I didn't like that movie as well. It didn't work for me. But up until now the Zack Snyder movies always worked, so I was very looking forward to the Justice League movie. But yeah, then Zack Snyder disappeared because of a tragedy in his family. Also now we hear that Warner Brothers wanted to fire him anyway. So then I became worried. And then when Joss Whedon came on, I thought, yes, I really like Joss Whedon's movies. I love Firefly and Serenity. I love the movies that he produced, like Cabin in the Woods. But I didn't think that he could produce the kind of movie that I liked from the Zack Snyder style. And yeah, that's true. But I don't think it's all Joss Whedon's fault. I will go into that later when I come to the negatives. But I can say that overall I wasn't impressed with this movie. And yeah, I will first go into the things that I really liked. The acting of the main five of the Justice League is really good. Gal Gadot was always a weak part for me, but and I thought she was overacting in Wonder Woman. But in this movie, I really didn't see any faults with her acting. I was very glad to see that. Henry Cavill was good, of course, and Ben Affleck as well. Ezra Miller was also really good. Sometimes he became too jokey. Like it's good that there are some jokes in this, like when DC said we're going into a lighter style, we aren't as gritty anymore. I thought, okay, with the Justice League movie that makes sense, because they always make jokes as well in the animated series, for example. But just sometimes, as for Miller, the Flash made too many jokes. But yet it wasn't really his fault, and some of his faces in this movie are great. And Roy, who played Cyborg, was also really good. But the acting was good, the jokes were good, and this movie has one very good fighting scene. I was disappointed that it was only one scene, and I won't spoil it here, but you probably know. But I just think how it ended was too abrupt. And the change in character was too abrupt. It should have taken longer. It should have been the whole movie, or maybe even more movies. But yeah, it was a very cool scene, but it was almost the only good fighting scene in there. But you could very clearly see that was Zack Snyder. So now we come to the negatives, and well, let's begin with the main thing that everybody's talking about, Steppenwolf. He just isn't a good villain. He isn't on screen that much. When he's on screen, he's always doing the same thing. Even his dialogue is the same for the most part. He's searching for the mother boxes, and I like that he used the boom tubes, but what mother boxes are, they changed for this movie. And I really didn't like that, and because they changed it, the villain was always just yelling unity, unity, for the unity every time, and it became annoying. That was the only thing he said for the most part. And he was just going for the boxes. Yeah, he killed people, not all that many. It was just a stupid villain. He didn't have much character. And he has a 2-minute, no, not even, maybe a minute introduction. And that's it, that's all the backstory you get. So yeah, that was disappointing. But the other thing that people are always talking about is the special effects of Steppenwolf. I thought they weren't that bad. His character looked pretty good. The only thing is, when he's talking just in the face, there isn't much animation. You have a little bit of the mouth and a little bit of the eyes, but that's it. Yeah, I think those special effects weren't as bad, but the special effects that looked really bad were just explosions, stuff like that. But in particular, in the final fight, you have kind of tentacles that come out of the ground and spread. And those looked really bad. Those looked like special effects from like 2007, 2008, around that era. And that's something that you see in other Zack Snyder movies as well. For example, with the Terraform Machine defense in Man of Steel. So I think those were there from the start. So I really don't get why those special effects weren't looking any better. Because I think the special effects team had time to do that. But yeah, the special effects aren't on par for a movie like this. And another negative is just Joss Whedon's style. I think it doesn't flow with Zack Snyder's style. In the credits you only see Zack Snyder directed it, but we know Joss Whedon also directed a huge chunk of it. I couldn't pinpoint which scenes were made by who, except when they weren't in suit, because you could see the hairline of Ben Affleck was different. And of course the mustache from Superman, which looked really bad, but he's only with the mustache in 2 scenes, so it isn't that bad. But other than that, I had a hard time seeing which scenes were from whom, but it didn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie. And that was what I was hoping to see, at least in the action scenes. As I said, there was one really great action scene, and then the final fight is also pretty good, but it wasn't as good as I hoped. And just sometimes, at least I thought that the reshoots were very obvious. Like, you have one scene where the whole Justice League is with each other, and then Ben Affleck and Wonder Woman start talking to each other with more backstory, more character development. And in the background you don't see Flash, you don't see Cyborg, you don't see Aquaman. It's weird. Like, probably they couldn't or didn't want to pay for everybody to be there, or scheduling issues, so they just don't have them in the background. That was just weird to see. But for me, the biggest negative is just the music. Music can elevate a movie. I love music. And Danny Elfman did the soundtrack for this one. And when they announced that they fired Junkie XL and hired Danny Elfman, I thought, oh no. Because I love Danny Elfman. I like the music that he's done a lot. Not lately, but up until like 2005. I really liked what he has done with movies. I really liked his Batman theme, especially because it was used so much in the animated series as the intro. But when he was hired, I thought, no, the soundtrack style that he makes doesn't mesh well with the Zack Snyder style of movies. So I listened to the soundtrack before I watched the movie, and I really disliked it. And I thought, let's wait until I see the movie, because maybe I will like it then, maybe I don't mind it then. But no, I really disliked it. It doesn't add anything. For the most part, it's just some noise in the background with not any special themes, except the ones that were already made by John Williams for Superman and the Danny Elfman Batman theme. And I knew he was going to use it, but it is just a dead-on replication of his theme from 1989. Same instruments, same lines, same tempo, everything. And for me, I hated that, because this is a DCEU movie. There were themes made for those characters. Use those themes. And the reason why Danny Elfman didn't do that was, we heard in an interview, he said there are already themes made for those characters. To change them every time the character has a reboot, it's just stupid. It's just for the ego of the composer. And I really disagree with that, Because if you would do that, then you have always the same themes for the same characters. You wouldn't hear any new music anymore in movies. It's just stupid and you lose originality. Like an origin story. We have many origin stories for the same character. And they can still add new things. And otherwise you could have the same argument for that. It's just for the director's ego. But the most important thing for me what contradicts it is he uses his own Batman team. Then why doesn't he use the 1966 Batman team? Or earlier, I don't know when the series started. Or use that when he made the 89 soundtrack. It's a stupid argument. And I just don't think it works in this DCEU. Especially because all the movies, the soundtracks were pretty electronic, pretty upbeat, and this is just a typical movie soundtrack. It feels like a 90s movie soundtrack. It doesn't have electronics at all. It's just, when I hear the soundtrack, I think it wouldn't mesh well with the movie, and it didn't. And there was one thing that worked, which I didn't expect, and that was the Wonder Woman theme. Because the Wonder Woman theme is used, but not with the original instruments. It's used with orchestral instruments. And when I listened to it on my PC, before I saw the movie, I thought that's not going to work in the movie. But it actually did. Not as well as the original version of the theme in Batman v Superman and Wonder Woman. But it worked much better than I expected. But overall, it's just, for me, the soundtrack really made a negative impact on the movie. And lastly, just this movie, it just felt like while I was watching it, yeah, there was some action going on, there was a very basic story going on, so that's why I don't blame Joss Whedon. The story that was there from the start that Zack Snyder made wasn't strong at all. But it's just some explosions on screen. And for me, Marvel movies never worked with me. I don't like the Marvel style, I don't like Marvel comic books. I don't like most comic books for the most part. I do want those gritty stories. They, for me, are just much more interesting and much more fun to watch than the Marvel movies for the most part. And when I watch a Marvel movie like Captain America, the second one, I think it is Civil War? No, Winter Soldier. Everybody was raving about that movie, so I thought, let's watch it because let's give it a try. And I just wasn't entertained at all by that movie. It was just like characters that I wasn't interested in, a storyline that didn't interest me, many references to stuff that I wasn't interested in, and that's why that movie didn't work for me. And I got the exact same feeling from this movie, and that's just something that I didn't want at all. Except for a couple of scenes. Some scenes were very interesting to me, but for the most part it wasn't an interesting movie for me. So yeah, if Warner Brothers continues with the DCEU after the box office flop, hopefully they will go back to the more gritty stuff. That's at least what I like, but yeah, we will see. So as a conclusion, well, I have a lot of negatives, but also a couple of positives. When I was watching the movie, I wasn't really bored, but it wasn't as fun to watch as I wanted it to be. I didn't have as much fun when I watched Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. I think for me this is around the level of Wonder Woman, maybe a little bit beneath it, but yeah, I wasn't really happy with this movie, so I don't think I will be buying this on Blu-ray day one. Just like Wonder Woman, I still don't own Wonder Woman. I don't know what they need to do. I don't think they can fix this. For me, they need to return to what they were doing, but for a lot of people from the general public, they don't need to do it, of course, because those movies didn't do well. So yeah. But thanks for watching. See you all next time. Bye.